2025 is going to be electric. We got some tremendous games. And I figured it'd be appropriate for us to get a little draft of the best games in 2025 with myself and our very own Kaiden Smith. Goes by Kato. Kato, I'm juiced for this, man. I know we've been prepping for this for a minute here. How are we feeling about our draft board as it stands right now?
Listen, JD, we've done a couple drafts, and this is the one I feel the best about, I think, by far. I had to watch my hands as I was opening up my notebook because there's a lot of heat in here right now with my big board. So I'm feeling good right now. We're doing a 5-round draft, I believe, and I have 10 games here where if I get half of them, I feel good about it. So I'm more curious to see where we align and where we don't align and who takes who from what and what games maybe you're just off the board. I have different tiers, though. I'm excited for this one. This is kind of one of those drafts that, like, somehow in the month of May, I'm pumped about college football season, just talking about these games we get to watch months from now. So I'm jazzed for this one.
It is one of those things, too. You look at the dates of some of these games. Like the September games, right around the corner. Like week 1 is going to be absolutely jam-packed. I'd be surprised if you and I don't ravage that thing, throughout the course of this 5-round draft. You don't have to squint to see college football on the horizon. Like we're going to blink and media days will be here. So with that being said, if you've watched our draft before, we always flip a coin for the first pick. Kaiden, you're going to call it. I got your standard U.S. quarter here. We got George Washington on the front, Eagle on the back. You got heads or tails, my guy?
Tails never fails, man.
Okay, so we're going to flip it and do the whole thing where you do on your forearm, which hopefully I can catch this thing here as I sit here in the chair. All right, the call is tails.
Good grab.
Dude, I appreciate that. All right, so it's heads. It is heads for those that are watching. This is where it is on my arm. I guess you can't really see it if you're watching. Doesn't really matter. It's heads.
They believe you.
We'll go honor system. Yeah, I hope they believe us, dude.
Man of honesty.
I think we had one of our last drafts. Someone was like,
they questioned.
Like they saw the toss and they were like, I don't think that's what it was. And I was like, shoot, man. Okay, well.
If that was a joke, that's funny. And if they were like really like, hold on, let me zoom in and enhance this and make sure.
Wait a second.
Someone to get screwed.
What is this nonsense?
You're appreciated for that.
Yeah, man. It'll be good. Okay, so first pick, my 1-1 on the board. I wonder if this is your 1-1. I'm going to go. So now I'm hesitating because now I'm actually looking at my board, and I think I like the other one as well. You know what? I'll go with this. I'll go Ohio State, Texas for my first pick.
I was about to say, you scared me, bro. I thought there was a clear blue chip prospect of this draft against that game. Not even close. That was my.
So here's the only reason. Now I'm telling you why I wouldn't pick it, but my only hesitation was it's not a conference game. So the loser of this game could very easily, and you would almost expect to go run the table and make the college football playoff. I'm picking it because we're going to have 2 first-year starting quarterbacks. I expect it to be Sain and Manning. It's going to be the game of week 1. The big thing for me, and we've talked about this, whoever loses this game, while you think they're probably still in good position, Ohio State still has to play Michigan, still has to play Penn State. Texas still has to play Georgia, still has to play A&M. So Florida, like they're Oklahoma. There's a lot there to where you don't want to lose your mulligan the first game of the season. Ohio State, you would hope the home crowd gets rocking, but that is my number 1 overall pick. We'll take Texas going to the shoe, playing Ohio State. Would be surprised if game day is not there, but that's my first overall pick, Cato.
Yeah, I thought that was, like I said before, that was the Andrew Luck of this draft to me. Like, I get your take on the conference stuff. That's why I put best kind of in quotes on that lower third there, just because I think that's subjective. My board, I'm just letting the people know it's about the games I'm most excited to watch. And obviously with week 1 being the first week of college football, there's a lot of excitement there. But those two teams playing a rematch of the college football playoff matchup we got last year. Arch Manning's first start as a bona fide starter in the shoe against the national champion. I thought that was by far unequivocally the number 1 overall pick. So I like your logic about the importance of the games moving forward. But to me, that's just the definition of box office. I think even if you put that one in another week, it's still the most highly anticipated game of the year, I think, just given the stakes in that one. That could be the number 1 versus number 2 team in the country when we get there. So
it is for me, yeah.
Yeah, that could very well be 1 versus 2 week 1 of defending national champs at home. Like that's box office. So staying in week 1 and going with my number 1 overall pick, I'm going with LSU at Clemson. I think when it comes to just LSU, we mentioned it before, we talked to people in that building, They feel like this is their most talented team they've had, and that's saying a lot of the Brian Kelly era, especially considering the year where you have 3 first-round picks with Jaden Daniels and those 2 receivers. But that being said, you have Garrett Nussmeier now at the peak of his powers, Cade Klubnik. I know there's going to be a lot of NFL scouts at this one for sure. I think as far as quarterback matchups, doesn't get much better than that. And at the same time, too, Clemson feels the same way. I feel like they have the most talented team they've had since they were kind of rattling off national championships. I know we both look at Todd McShay, and he did a way too early mock draft for 2026. He had like 5 or 6 Clemson guys in there. So I think they're stacked this year. This feels like the closest they've been preseason to a natty in a while. And I think Brian Kelly has to still fight off this demon that is week 1. So I think the storyline's there. I think the quarterback play is there. And I think right behind Texas and Ohio State, I think this is a very worthy number 2. This is kind of the RG3 to me. You got Luck, I got RG3. We'll see how it goes. I thought those were 2 bona fide week 1 headliners, though, that I feel really good about starting our draft with.
No, I was going to say, I feel really good about the order between those 2. Like, I feel really good about us getting week 1 out of the way, the 2 box office, like you mentioned, between Ohio State, Texas, and Clemson, LSU. Dude, the vibes for both fan bases, like we said in the previous show, if LSU loses that game, the Bengal Tiger, the LSU On3 message board, the Ponderosa, will be absolutely on fire.
And so will Brian Kelly probably.
He will be Bills Mafia slamming the table, cutting it in half. Like the post-game press conference, when they live stream it, oh my freaking goodness. It will be something else. For Clemson, if you drop that game, it's like, okay, that's definitely a frustrating thing to have happen. I don't think it's the same level of anarchy that LSU has, but if LSU drops that one, like, hey, here we go. Clemson could drop that one and still be able to make the college football playoff. They made it last year at 9-3, but yeah, good pick. Good pick. Definitely
appreciate it.
Definitely a solid take there with the second overall pick. So I'm going to take for my second pick here, I'm going to take Ohio State, Michigan.
Wow.
So there's a couple of factors to this. There's the storylines of Sayin versus Underwood. This game, I think, will have Big Ten title and playoff implications for at least one side, if not both. We mentioned the amount of on fire it could be for LSU if they lose to Clemson. Dude, if Ryan Day loses to Michigan again, all the good vibes from the national championship, I don't know if they're gone, but they are significantly turned down. Because you cannot lose yet again to the Wolverines with them having a true freshman quarterback after last year's abomination in Columbus. Like, this has got to be the spot where Ryan Day gets the monkey off of his back. So I think there's a little implications of the playoff and the Big Ten championship. I just think the entire Ryan Day of it all is absolutely fascinating because this is kind of that thorn in the side where we said it before. It's kind of like an infection. If you don't get it taken care of, it will be the end of you. When, I don't know, but Ryan Day has a Michigan infection. Does he take care of it this year? We'll see, but that's my number 2 pick.
This might sound crazy, JD, but this game was not like very high on my big board. This was actually
really, was it on there?
It's at the very bottom. I have a couple games at the bottom, like a couple rivalry games. Not to give away my hand and my strategy here, but
sure.
To me, the game happens every year. Ohio State hasn't won it in a while, so tuning in to see if they can finally pull it off again is kind of why you're tuning in. So not again, I think this is the biggest, best rivalry in college football right now, and I think the storylines are going to be there for sure. But to me, it just doesn't get me as excited, especially with it being the last game of the season and everything has to happen in between. But we saw last year it was a 21.5 point spread, and Ohio State still found a way to lose that one. So obviously Bryce Underwood playing in his first version of this game, and we'll imagine he'll get at least 2 more shots after this. I think that's exciting. And Sayin will be a young quarterback too, but like we've mentioned, these are 2 guys who will be closer to their second year as a starter than their first after it. So I think I feel like a lot still has to happen for both of those teams in the seasons before we get there. So I feel like that doesn't, like I said, I'm going about excitement here, and to stay on the excitement train, I'm staying in week 1, man. I can't help myself. Notre Dame at Miami, bro.
Ooh, good pick.
That is awesome to me.
Pick.
This is the national champion runner-up, the first ever career start for C.J. Carr, Jeremiah Love in the fold, Marcus Freeman in the gang, opening up the season with another banger. And who are they playing? Carson Beck in his Miami debut, coming off the elbow surgery. Can he live up to kind of that Cam Ward expectation we saw? We're in Hard Rock Stadium. To me, this one gets me super excited. I think when you look at Notre Dame, we've mentioned it in the past, they have to go at least 500 in their first 2 games of the season with a Texas A&M matchup after this, just given their schedule. And they have a game against USC that might have some stakes as well when it comes to the playoff. But I think this is one of those spots where week one, both teams not necessarily knowing who they are. There's Notre Dame going to be close to that national championship level we saw. Is Miami going to be close to that level we saw last year? Is the defense going to improve? It might be a little bit of a cheat code as far as excitement goes, but to me, week one, with kind of not knowing who these teams are going to be, that kind of matchup like that, and kind of similar to the first one I have, really pumped about it. So give me Notre Dame at Miami and Hard Rock.
I like that one, dude, especially if you can get the Miami faithful to turn out for that one. Like, I know there's a lot of takes around the lack of home field advantage for the Hurricanes, but if you're going to a game, if you're a Miami fan, that's the one I'm going to. Like you just said, the opener, national title runner-up headed to your place. That's going to be awesome. Carson Beck's debut, that's going to be a fun one, dude. That's actually a very, very good pick. I like that a lot.
A game with some history, too. Catholics versus convicts might have to run back that 30 for 30 that they had before the game, really get fired up. Oh, man, I think the B-roll for that one will be excellent. I think College Game Day, all the stuff, the storylines write themselves there for sure.
The game day, I mean, you would imagine game day goes to Ohio State, Texas.
Yeah.
Lee Corso's last game.
For sure.
Throw on the Brutus Buckeye head, for the last time, kind of bookend the whole thing. But I mean,
they'll talk about this one.
If they don't go there, dude, Miami.
I was saying they'll definitely go there. I'm saying that when they talk about the game,
for sure,
like cutting the B-roll for that, even like the Tiger versus Tiger matchup I have, the Death Valley versus Death Valley. I think the week one storylines are kind of writing themselves this year, man, and that's another reason why I can get excited for college football in May right now, because week one itself is just electric to me.
There's so much it feels like we're going to. Like I always say, I think week one is for taking a temperature, and then you sort of try to let things bake a little bit throughout the course of the season. We're probably going to learn a lot week one about a lot of these, especially a lot of these quarterbacks at new spots, whether it be, Beck at Miami, the new faces like Manning and Sayin, and you would think CJ Carr from Notre Dame. I'm actually going to go with a Notre Dame game as well for my third pick here. I'm going to go A&M going to Notre Dame.
Good call.
All right, so I got them week 3, September 13th. You look at what this game was a year ago, week 1, we picked Notre Dame because we felt like there was so many things behind Notre Dame as to why they were supposed to win. You had a head coach who had been there longer, a roster that felt like more just behind it, more experience. While Marcus Freeman still outlasts Mike Elko in the experience category, it feels like this should be a game, as we sit here in May, where A&M should be feeling like they should win. Marcel Reed's going to be the quarterback going into this thing that should help you. You have a top 10 returning production, I believe, on that roster. Notre Dame, national title runner-up a year ago, but like you are replacing a lot when it comes to what Riley Leonard was. You're replacing a lot with a new defensive coordinator. I'm not picking a winner right now, but that game in itself, if you're Notre Dame and you want to make the playoff, let's say they lose that first game to Miami, you can't drop another one in the second game of the season and then feel great about your playoff chances. At that point, like you need legitimate help to get in the playoffs. So massive stakes there for Notre Dame, and then for A&M, if you want to shake the A&M 8-4 moniker, go beat Notre Dame at their place and set the tone for what you're going to be in 25.
I think that's a great pick. I think, like I said before, Notre Dame's got to win both, if not one of these games. So they could be in an interesting spot. And I think the difference between last year's version of this game and this year's version is also like really exciting. Like you had Marcel Reed not playing at all in this game. Now he's in the fold. You have a new quarterback for Notre Dame as well. So it's interesting how in the trenches we kind of expect the same thing in this game, but there's still a lot of big factors that are a lot different than last year. And I'm sure Notre Dame kind of in their national championship run with Marcus Freeman proved they have kind of that SEC level toughness and DNA beating a team like Georgia. So they'll probably be absolutely fearless. I believe they're hosting this time around, correct?
Yeah.
So
and going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, so they have to feel good as well. They'll feel really good coming off a Miami win potentially too. So I think that's another great one for sure.
Under touchdown Jesus. I don't know.
The stories write themselves.
Should be good.
So I'm not gonna lie, JD. My big board is shaping out really nice right now.
Okay.
I have the two picks I want next. I'm between two right now. And I think you're going to take one if I don't take it.
Okay.
And I'm scared you're going to do that. So I think I just have to go with the better prospect here. Give me Oregon at Penn State, week 5.
Yep. Okay.
This is a Big Ten championship rematch. This is the first, I believe, conference game for both of these teams, if I'm correct. But this Big Ten championship game, I think, was like totally slept on. It was one of the best games from last year. Drew Aller almost led a masterful come from behind win, threw for a bunch of yards in that game. This time he comes into the matchup with hopefully some better weapons on the outside. You don't have a Tyler Warren, but they've done a good job. I think Penn State a solid job of retooling that wide receiver room and trying to get him some weapons. They bring back both their running backs, obviously. So, yeah, this will be a Big Ten opener for both of these teams, and I can't think of a better way to open up Big Ten play than an Oregon versus Penn State team, a Penn State team who has that feel like we mentioned before of the Ohio States and the Michigans trying to get to that national championship, adding a Jim Knowles, doing all kind of the national championship offseason things to work toward that. And Oregon and Adante Moore, who I have high stock on as well as you, playing in his first Big Ten matchup. I think this is a big one. I think both teams will get a bye eventually in this. It's both of their fourth games, I believe. So, yeah, give me Oregon going to College Station. Don't know if that's too early for a whiteout, but I couldn't think of a better time for one than hosting Oregon.
I was going to say, bro, if you are the powers that be in State College, Happy Valley, gotta get the whiteout for this one,
Come
dude.
on.
Don't give me – I love Joel Klatt. I love Goss Johnson. I love the new kicks. But if you got Oregon rolling in town, dude –
first time.
This is the spot. This is the spot. You got to throw a whiteout. I mean, I know they did the whiteout during the day for the SMU game in the playoff. I understand that. I'm sure it still has some juice to it, but like, you got to make this the whiteout, right? You have to.
This could be. I'd have to look up. We can't do full stats by Cato right now, but this could be the first time Oregon's gone to Penn State. Like, when has this ever happened? Like, this is
recent
historic
memory for sure.
Got to have a historic backdrop. I think this one's gonna probably be a top 5 matchup. We imagine, right?
Yeah, you would think. Unless somebody stubs their toe before that game, like you would definitely think that's a spot.
It'd be a big stub with Penn State playing Villanova, FIU, and Nevada, and Oregon opening up the season against Montana State, Oklahoma State, and Northwestern. So yeah, they'll play 4 games before Week 5, and then we'll have a little bit more rest for the Nittany Lions. But yeah, I mean, as far as Big Ten matchups, I think that's my headliner this year, along with there's one other good game, but yeah, that's a big one. That's the big one, earliest one, I think, so that's why I had to get it off the board.
Oklahoma State would make me a little bit more nervous for Oregon if it was in Stillwater, but it's in Autzen. Oklahoma State wasn't great last year. Far be it for me to count out Mike Gundy and the boys, but I'm with you. It should be an undefeated top 5 matchup as we sit here in May. This was the one, Cato, that I almost took 1-1 just because of the conference implications. Texas at Georgia.
Can't go wrong, yeah.
Texas at Georgia, November 15th. It's going to be – I'm still curious to see what Georgia looks like. I have the sneaking suspicion that Kirby Smart is not going to go quietly into that good night. The SEC, I think, still goes through Georgia until it doesn't. And so for Arch Manning, in November, can you go to Athens and find a way to will your team past what is currently the best coach in college football until there is someone that definitively takes the torch? If you want to get to where Texas expects to be, which is the top of college football, winning national championships, you got to beat the big dog, man. You got to slay the dragon. The dragon, I think, as of right now, outside of Ohio State, is Georgia, and especially in the conference, is Georgia. So that's going to be a really good test of what is Texas, and then also what is Georgia being able to kind of plant their flag and do the we're still here thing. Yeah, we lost Carson Beck. Yeah, we lost some pieces production-wise. We always do every single year, but like the Gunnar Stockton era, the retooling, the offensive skill players, I think Georgia's just still going to have something to say about it. So Texas at Georgia for me is my 4th pick off the board here. Feel pretty good about that one. The conference implications there is massive.
That's a great one, yeah. I think we could be more open now that we have a couple less picks here. But like, there's 2 Georgia games that are like, okay, if I don't have one, like I'd want the other. We'll see if you have the onions to take both Georgia games, but I think that you can't go wrong with that matchup. That's kind of like we talked about before with Saban, not at Alabama anymore. We could be seeing kind of a shifting in the conference where it used to kind of be Georgia, Alabama every year. Now it might be Texas and Georgia as far as that litmus test. I feel like everyone agrees those are the 2 best teams in that conference, and it's kind of everyone else trying to see who can get to that level. And
it's what it is.
It doesn't get. If you're the 2 best SEC teams, you have a good shot of being the 2 best teams in the country. So can't go wrong with that. I'm gonna go with my heart a little bit here.
Do it. Do it.
I still have a lot. We can go rounds here, man.
That's the thing.
Tell you what, we might have to get some honorable mentions here on the back end, but I'm missing a rivalry, and I want a rivalry game in my fold. And this game never disappoints, and I think this year has the chance to be the highest level of this game we've seen. Give me Red River Week 7, Texas versus Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. I think last year Oklahoma is going to have a very bad taste in their mouth for just being on the world stage and having everyone see them be incompetent at quarterback. Enter in John Mateer.
Yeah.
And he's going to come for this game fired up. This is legitimately one of those ones, like I said, records don't matter usually in this game. We've seen classics year after year after year in this one, no matter where either team is ranked. I think Arch starting for his first time in this moment. Outside of my LSU Clemson week 1, I think quarterback matchups across the board, this is as good as it gets, man. Arch Manning versus John Mateer. We've talked about how this rivalry game is one of the best in college football, one we both want to experience really bad. And I think these two quarterbacks specifically dueling it out. Please have this at noon. Have us watch College Game Day and just put us in the Cotton Bowl, please, to watch these two quarterbacks duke it out in what I think will be an instant classic. So give me Red River.
Can you imagine if Brent Venables wins this game and then goes to 2-2 against Steve Sarkisian? And everyone knocking Brent Venables. Is he a head coach? Is he good enough at Oklahoma? If they get it done this year and he's 500 against what I think most people would consider a top 3 head coach in college football, very interesting for the narrative around day 1, Brent Venables. I'm with you, though, dude. That's a great pick. That was going to be my next pick if you didn't take that one. So hearing that you took that, I was like, there's no way. Also, just for the draft, like you and I finished these things up, and we're like, man, how did whatever get left on the board from the different drafts? If Red River was on the board, we'd be, shame on us.
I didn't want to be accused of being like a week 1 merchant, so had to get a rivalry, get more traditional in there as well. But I love the point you bring up about Venables, man. I think we've talked so much about Oklahoma this offseason, them making the right moves and kind of the perception around Venables. We talked about the Cotton Bowl, and I'll never forget, I was getting B-roll for it, and I was just looking at past Cotton Bowl games, and like I forgot that Venables has already won in this game. Like I forgot Dylan Gabriel had that instant classic, and he has gotten his win there. Like that is a rite of passage being an Oklahoma coach. If you don't win that game early enough in your career, you're gonna hear some murmurs about it. So we forget this guy comes in locked up with his boys, this series, arm in arm. Like I'm pumped for this one already. If this one was a week 1, I'd be running through a wall right now just talking about it. So thankfully I'll have some games between then to temper my pace. But JD, what's your last pick, man? We're down to it.
So it's I guess you could call it it's not rivalry weekend, but it still has rivalry vibes to it. Last thing I'll say about Red River, having Arch or Mateer with the gold cowboy hat, it's gonna be a visual. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll leave that out there. Not to get us off track here of this last pick, but man, this game always has a major impact on the SEC race. And this is not to be too SEC centric, but I think the storylines around both teams is huge here too. Give me LSU at Bama, November 8th. I would hope this is a night game in Bryant-Denny. We talk about LSU. Same thing I said about Texas and Georgia. If you want to get to the mountaintop, I think you got to slay some of those demons along the way. And while Alabama isn't Saban's Alabama as of right now with 1 year under DeBoer, DeBoer walked into their trap that is Death Valley, took over that thing a year ago. Jalen Milroe, I think, just ran for another touchdown against them. So the embarrassment that was for Brian Kelly, for Garrett Nussmeier, for everyone involved in Baton Rouge, to be able to go on the road to Tuscaloosa and get their lick back, I think that is something that will have a massive amount of emotion for that side of the operation. And for Kalen DeBoer, I just said everyone's questioning what Alabama is right now. If you can defend home turf in that game against an LSU team that we think Cato should be competing for a national championship, the amount that would do, I think, for his approval rating to go from 1-0 to 2-0 against LSU. Also, what it would say about where Bama is in the month of November, I think they're probably feeling pretty good about their playoff aspirations, or at least keeping them intact in that spot. So from a purely impact perspective, I'm going to go LSU at Bama with my final pick off the board.
I think beyond impact, though, vibes here are always great. Like this always feels right. When this game is on, it just feels right. Like this is just one of those classics. I will say though, I had it on my do not. It's the only game I have on here that's a do not draft.
No way. Why was it do not draft for you? I want to hear that. That's interesting.
All right. Do you know the record of this game the last 6 years?
I don't know.
4-2 for Bama.
Okay.
Do you know last 14 years?
No, I don't.
12-2 Bama. This game, Alabama wins this game too much. I think now, looking before the season, this is one of those opportunities where LSU can win it. Like you just optically looking at things with Alabama. Saban's not there kind of looming over anymore. The quarterback position has some question marks coming into the season. LSU seems like they're in the position of strength. So that adds to it. But to me, when we were just talking about these games, this is a game that happens every year. And more often than not, Bama wins this one. So that's the only reason I had it on a do not draft list, because I think there's a lot more intrigue here. This makes me want to go so many more rounds though, because I have games now that are going to get left off for my last pick. I want to pick a couple here so bad with my heart, but I think if I pick with my head here and just close out my draft with a bona fide just solid pick, I think we're winners here. So give me Alabama at UGA week 5.
Okay.
This is an SEC
like that.
opener for both of these teams. I think this was the best game of the season last year. I can't believe this is going in the last round, obviously, but yeah, man, I think this one speaks for itself. I'll never forget when this game happened last year and it was finally over, and I was watching it with a bunch of Georgia fans, and I didn't have a dog in the fight. I'm like you. I don't have teams I'm rooting for. I might root for a bet or if I said something on the show that I think will happen, but I was just watching this purely for the love of the game. And man, like, I literally put a story on my story afterwards. I was like, what did we do to deserve college football? Like, it doesn't get much better than this. Those Ryan Williams plays down the stretch, the fact that Carson Beck was able to will this team back into a comeback. It was the game of the year last year, in my opinion. We get a rematch of it again to open up SEC play. I think for SEC openers in Big Ten with the Penn State and Oregon and the Alabama UGA matchup I think those are two great ways to open up SEC play. Actually, hold on, I'm wrong. Yes, Georgia goes to Tennessee before this, so that's on me. Alabama will open up SEC play against Georgia in this game. So this will be Georgia's second SEC game after going to Rocky Top. But, yeah, this game delivered last year. I think it'll deliver this year, and it's still Georgia versus Alabama at the end of the game. Those are two of the staples in the game in the SEC, and I think we'll be in a good spot here rounding out my draft here with UGA versus Bama.
I love that. I love that we get that game, first of all. So, one, good pick. Two, for the longest time, it was like we weren't getting Georgia-Bama. It felt like
only in the postseason, right?
All in the if at all, it was in the postseason just because of the way the SEC was set up. But having this on the schedule not once but twice in the last 2 years, I adore that. I think the interesting thing about this game, Cato, like I was so taken aback a year ago by how flat-footed it felt like Kalen DeBoer got Kirby Smart. Like the game plan for Alabama just had Georgia, it felt like in a blender. And so to see how that looks in the second volume of the Smart versus DeBoer series, that's something I'm really intrigued by. But absolutely a great pick with Georgia, Bama, and those two brands. Like you can't go wrong with that. If that had been left on the board too, that would have been unfortunate.
That would have been a shame. That's another reason I did it too. Like we saw what 17-year-old Ryan Williams did in this game. Imagine what 18-year-old version of him's going to do. Imagine it could get scary.
Ryan Williams that can legally not have to ask his parents before he goes and watch. Like remember how there's always those like viewer discretion advised. It's like he doesn't have to do that anymore. No more viewer discretion for Ryan Williams. He can like go watch whatever TV show he wants to now, and just is. I mean, Adult Swim for Ryan Williams essentially. Like he can turn on whatever TV, MA, whatever Netflix series he wants and like doesn't have to ask his parents, which is actually a big deal, I think.
Did you want to go over some of your non-drafted ones, your honorable mentions that didn't make it?
Dude, I love Army-Navy. Army-Navy wasn't going to get drafted, and I knew that, but that game to me transcends the sport, in my opinion. I would have taken that one. I also would have taken South Carolina LSU.
Oh, my God, JD, I
would have taken it, bro.
Like, I wish you would have taken more off of my board so I could have like drafted a game like that. Like I had it like right there and I was like, I can't pick this over Bama, Georgia. I want to. I already had LSU in the fold, but I feel like there was a theme of quarterback matchups at a couple spots in mine, and that would have like been the cherry on top if I could get Lenoris Sellers versus Garrett Nussmeier, a game that was awesome last year. Honestly.
So good.
And both of these guys are going to just level up. That would have.
Lenoris Sellers plays last year. He probably wins that game.
This one's in the Bayou too. Like this one's going to be. I'm so mad neither of us drafted this. Honestly, Lenoris going undrafted on our list kind of hurts. But,
yeah. I think that we're going to get a lot of really high-impact South Carolina games this year, though. And it's going to be a thing where we won't really know it until like a week out, 2 weeks out, when we say, oh, we got South Carolina, LSU. Both those teams are one loss, undefeated, whatever. That's going to be cinema. I'll throw one more quarterback matchup your way, Kato. I want to hear your honorable mentions as well. Notably, for better or worse, no Big 12 games were drafted. One that I took a peek at that I didn't think we would probably take just because of all the value on the board, other places that we were going to probably, both rush to try and get. Arizona State goes to McLean Stadium in September to play Baylor. Could be a Big 12 title round one game. I said that about Arizona State and Utah the other day. I feel the same way I feel about that game as I do ASU going to Waco, Texas to play the Fighting Sawyer Robertsons and Dave Aranda and that beautiful, shiny, bald head. Talk about a chess match, dude. Kenny Dillingham on one sideline. Kenny Dilly. Dave Aranda on the other, showing no emotion. That's going to be awesome, dude. I can't wait for that one. Didn't get drafted, but I cannot wait for that one.
I was ready to call you a Baylor homer very fast, but that game being like the fourth game of the season for Arizona State in their first conference game, like again, like we opened up conference play strong, I think is what we learned through this exercise and a lot of conferences. So I'm excited for that for sure. I think the Big 12, like we've talked about before, like it's a stock that you just invest in and watch it grow. And I think over the course of the season, the games will just get better and better. The stakes will get higher. We'll probably have another 4-way tie going into November. And, like, those games will sort themselves out as far as importance. Like, I think the SEC, the Big Ten, some of these other games, established brands, rivalries, regulars in the postseason. I'm just as excited for the Big 12 as you are. Just because it's not represented in the draft doesn't mean that. But that being said, week 0 across the pond,
Ooh,
Iowa State versus Kansas State.
Farmageddon.
I am excited for that. It wasn't on my draft board, but I am absolutely juiced for that. You know I'm a Rocco Beck stan, so
Yeah.
that one didn't make my big board, but I am excited for that.
Farm dangerous.
What did almost get drafted? So I kind of had like a couple counter punches. I knew you would want Red River.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get Red River, I'd be pretty sick if I didn't have John Mateer on mine. So I was going to take Michigan at Oklahoma in week 2.
Ooh.
I think that will be a great game. I'm kind of disappointed it didn't get drafted, honestly. I think it's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah.
You mentioned LSU and South Carolina. I have Florida Miami on mine too in week 4. We've talked about in the past, this could be 2-2 teams who kind of, they're either going to be undefeated, like have their back against the wall maybe. I think whatever happens in the first 4 games of the season for both of those teams, meeting Miami versus Florida after what Cam Ward did last year in the Swamp, going to Hard Rock and running that one back, I think there's a ton of storylines there as well.
Huge.
And then I had USC Notre Dame. If I didn't get my other rivalry in there, that would be another one where I think we're high on USC this year. Jaden Maava of it all, like you talked about on this show, them having hopefully the ability to close out some games in the fourth quarter this year compared to last year. I think this, again, that could be the best version of that game we've seen in a while, I think, in my opinion. So, yeah, those are my undrafteds. But I think overall we're both looking rock solid.
I feel really good about the games that were picked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that there's one that I'm looking back on and saying, how did we miss this game? How is this game still out there? Like, the fact that we got maybe South Carolina, LSU, I think we agree is the one, but legitimately every game that you mentioned, truthfully, Cato, Georgia-Bama wasn't on my my board just because of the other games that I was going after with Texas and Georgia and Bama-LSU. But Oregon-Penn State getting drafted, I think, was a tremendous pick by you. That was the one that I thought was sneaky. I was like, I don't know if he's going to see this one. Oregon-Penn State is maybe the best value pick, I think, of this whole thing. So hats off to you there, brother.
You as well, man. I think this was a great exercise, and I think going into the season now, it'll be fun to like reassess these and see. Maybe we'll attach like a point spread to all of these, and whoever had the closest games, because I think that's what makes it the best game, right? Like if there's a bunch of blowouts on this, then maybe we picked wrong. So maybe throughout the season, as we get through the weeks, we'll see, okay, which of these games are actually the closest, and maybe that'll be the way we measure it. But we all should also do just a typical poll, social media. Which guys do you think is the better list? We'll have the fans get involved too.
Let the folks decide, man. I got a feeling, dude, those Oklahoma fans on social, they get riled up, man. So they may come to your aid with the force of 1,000 waterfalls. But Cato, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you drafting this thing and making this show go.